Three-day ceasefire declared by President Putin has taken effect in Ukraine. This ceasefire has been announced by President Ukraine because it coincides with the Victory Day celebrations that marks the 80th anniversary of the World War II being won by Russia and the Allies. That Victory Day celebration and parade will take place on May 9th, and ahead of that, the ceasefire has been put in place. Well, guess what? The two sides that are fighting this war have different opinions about the ceasefire. Russia says that it has put in place a ceasefire, something that Ukrainians say it hasn't. In fact, Ukraine has also gone on to say the Russian forces have carried out hundreds of strikes along the front lines and dropped guided bombs on Ukrainian cities, killing and injuring civilians. The three-day ceasefire, timed around Russia's Victory Day commemoration, was unilaterally declared by President Putin last month. And when this ends, the war will start again. But the larger question is, if in a three-day ceasefire window, the two sides are not able to agree as to whether or not some hostilities have been brought down, then what are we looking at in terms of the possibility of a larger, long-term ceasefire being in place for the two countries? Remember, all hostilities are back on the table. All possibilities of peace are right now off. What does it look like? Is the Russia-Ukraine war even headed towards any sort of a de-escalation or end of hostilities? We are yet to know. Let's quickly now get in the big questions on this, and then we get in the two guests. Fred Weir stays with us. Elena joins us to talk more about what is it that Ukraine is saying about it. How is it that a ceasefire, hostilities being halted for a three-day window, is being viewed differently by the two warring sides? Either there is a hostility in place or there is a stoppage to those hostilities for a brief period, isn't it, Fred? What is it that the two sides are now having a different opinion on?
Well, first of all, they're at war and they're very, very far apart in terms of what their war goals are. Certainly the attempts from Washington to try to forge some kind of a formula that might get a peace negotiation going have failed. This is clear. The previous ceasefire, one-day ceasefire, was declared by Putin. It doesn't seem to have been very successful. This one, of course, is connected with the Victory Day celebrations, which are tomorrow. There'll be this very prominent parade, military parade on Red Square, and it's very important to Russia. President Zelensky has made some veiled threats, saying things like, I can't guarantee the security of that parade. And indeed, in the past few days, the drone attacks, attempted drone attacks on Moscow have greatly ramped up. I live just in a village just west of Moscow, and we can sometimes hear the air battles taking place right over our heads. And apparently it has been much more intense the past couple of days. So Russia, I think in a self-interested way, wanted to declare that ceasefire in order to have a peaceful May the 9th. And probably the question is whether, despite the veiled threats, Ukraine would try to attack Red Square with so many foreign leaders in place. I think that's unlikely, but that is, of course, what the fear is in Moscow.
Irina, what would you like to say on this?
It is very unfortunate. I cannot really hear you. However, I would like to describe the situation here in Kiev with regards to this short ceasefire that was announced by President Putin. As you know very well, Ukraine agreed on the proposal of the United States and offered itself to establish a ceasefire for at least 30 days, because the ceasefire should be established not for some symbolic dates, especially when it comes to the 9th of May, the day which Ukraine contributed a lot to the fight against the fascism during the Second World War. And of course, now it's time that Russian fascist regime should also stop killing Ukrainians. However, after the ceasefire was announced, Russia itself shoot several rockets to the territory of Ukraine in Sumy and Kharkiv Oblast. Several women were injured, several homes were destroyed. So Russia doesn't stick to its own promises, and this is another another fact that shows that whatever deals are being cut with Russia, neither Ukraine nor the United States nor any other parties to any agreements with Russia could be rest assured that Russia will stick to its promises. Thus, currently, Ukraine hopes that this ceasefire would be prolonged because this killing must stop. However, we understand that Russia is not seeking for true peace, and that's why, unfortunately, more Ukrainians might die in the next days.
Right. Okay. Now, the fact that the two sides do not agree that there is a cessation of hostilities or not itself proves how difficult getting a long-term solution to this is, isn't it, Fred? So, what are the odds that the world is actually going to see some sort of a long-term peace settlement here?
I think that there's probably going to be a lot more, sadly, more action on the battlefield in the coming months. The Russians have made it clear from the very beginning that they're not interested in just a ceasefire. What they want is to see the outlines of a roadmap to a lasting solution, a peace settlement that will stick. And they have made their war objectives very clear. So yes, I would agree that this 3-day ceasefire from Putin is well, it's a just an opportunistic way of trying to get peace on his holiday. But in principle, there won't be any ceasefires that Russia will agree to until they've seen that blueprint for a permanent settlement, and it will have to respond to Russia's main war objectives for them to agree to it.
Elena, do you think that a ceasefire, cessation of hostilities, a peace settlement, whatever you may call it, anything that stops the attrition of people on both sides, do you think it's farther away than what it was maybe a month back, a month and a half back, when the Trump administration was geared towards finding some sort of a solution?
Again, I'm not sure what you're asking about. Again, if it comes to a ceasefire, we don't think that it will last. We do not think that there are currently any platform for Russia to stop its war. Most probably it will be conducting this war for at least this summer. However, we understand that both sides, not only Ukraine, but Russia as well, are running out of the resources. And moreover, Russian economy, though is still holding, it is not as strong as it used to be. It is very fortunate that the prices for oil go down, because these are the prices for the natural resources that fuels the war against Ukraine. So in general, we believe that this ceasefire will not last, but most probably at some point at the end of the year, there should be certain agreements, probably not a peace deal, but certain agreements that would decrease the aggressiveness of this war.